Welcome in, aka Aim Pro. How you doing? Gonna get into some stuff. I'm a little late tonight, but that's okay. That is A-okay. Welcome in, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is doing well this evening. Back for another Aviation Prattle. Give me just a second. Get some stuff set up here. I really should add to that intro. Give myself a little bit more time before the stream starts to fucking get everything set up. Alright. One moment. We'll jump right on into it here. Jump right on into it because I'm a little late. So. Oop. Fuck that one up. Oh, damn it. Alright. Alright. We're just gonna jump right into the Saab J37 Viggen. Yeah, buddy. Going back into Saab. Because Saab is the only aircraft company that creates fucking Delta Wing aircraft that actually look good. I mean, and there's only a couple that I really like. The Gripen is questionable. It's questionable. The Draken is cool as fuck. That thing looks like a spaceship. The Viggen, not too bad itself. It's pretty alright looking. But, like, the fucking Eurofighter? That thing has got such a long ass coming out the end of that motherfucker. It looks prolapsed. Not a fan. Not a fucking fan. Anyways, the Saab 37 Viggen is a single-seat, single-engine, multi-role combat aircraft designed and produced by the Swedish aircraft manufacturer Saab. It was the first canard-equipped aircraft to be produced in quantity and the first to carry out an airborne digital central computer with integrated circuits for its avionics, arguably making it the most modern advanced combat aircraft in Europe at the time of introduction. The digital central computer was the first of its kind in the world, automating and taking over tasks previously requiring a navigator co-pilot, facilitating handling in tactical situations where, among other things, high speeds and short decision times determined whether attacks would be successful or not. A system not surpassed until the introduction of the Panavia Tornado in operational service in 1981. Yeah, buddy. Development work begun early. Whoa, that's a teeny-ass picture. Let's fucking blow that thing up a little bit. Development work started early during the 1950s to develop a successor to the Saab 32 Lansen in the attack role, as well as to the Saab 35 Draken as a fighter. Saab's design team opted for a relatively radical Delta Wing configuration, as well as to produce the aircraft as an integrated weapon system that operated in conjunction with Sweden's STRI-L6 National Electronic Air Defense System. Yep. Gotta fight off the Russians. That's basically the only thing Sweden is worried about. It's fucking what Russia's doing. And they have to be able to cover their entire country rather quickly. Like, Sweden, the way Sweden goes about doing their Air Force, maybe I'll just do a whole episode on their Air Force entirely because, like, they're fucking smart, man. The Swedes, maybe that's me being biased because I'm majorly Swedish, but, no, they're actually pretty fucking smart. All their aircraft can be, like, landed on and worked on by small teams, but landed on a small roadway or like a highway out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Fuck all. Like, dude. Legends. It was also designed to be operated from runways as short as 500 meters, as I was just saying. Work was aided by the 37 Annex, under which Sweden could access advanced U.S. aeronautical technology to accelerate both design and production. Yeah, the U.S. was a major help in Sweden's, like, in-flight computer systems and shit like that. The aircraft's aerodynamic design was finalized in 1963. The prototype performed its maiden flight on the 8th of February 1967, and the following year, Swedish government ordered an initial batch of 175 Viggens. The first of these entered service with the Swedish Air Force on the 21st of June, 1971. Even as the initial AJ-37 model entered service, Saab was working on further variants of the Viggen. Accordingly, several distinct variants of the Viggen would be produced to perform the roles of fighter bomber, strike fighter, aerial reconnaissance, maritime patrol anti-surface, and two-seat trainer. Well, during the late 1970s, the all-weather interceptor strike fighter J-37 variant was introduced. Attempts to export the Viggen to other nations were made, but ultimately proved unsuccessful. In November 2005, the last Viggens were withdrawn from service by the Swedish Air Force. Its only operator, by this point, it had been replaced by the newer and more advanced Saab JAS-39 Gripen. Yep, the Gripen is a nasty plane. Holy shit. It's basically the Viggen, but it's 40% smaller and 40% lighter, some shit like that. Way gnarly. Thing's fucking basically an ultralight air fighter. Like, fuck. The Viggen was initially developed as intended replacement for the Saab 32 Lansen. Wait. Did I already fucking read that? No. No, I didn't. In the attack role, and later the Saab 35 Dragon as a fighter. In 1955, the Saab's prototype Draken, the most aerodynamically advanced fighter in the world at that point, performed its first flight. The Swedish Air Force was already forming a series of requirements for the next generation of combat aircraft. Due to the challenging nature of these requirements, a lengthy development time was anticipated, with the first flight intended to be no earlier than the middle of the next decade. Between 1952 and 1957, the first studies towards what would become the Viggen were carried out, involving the Finnish aircraft designer Arne Lakoma. Over 100 different concepts were examined in these studies, involving both single and twin-engine configurations, both traditional and double delta wings, and canard wings. Even vertical takeoff and landing designs were considered, with separate lift engines, but were soon identified as being unacceptable. Unacceptable. Oh. And they could still take it. I mean, they're still technically a short takeoff and landing aircraft. They're not by any means do they have to fucking land on a long runway. Like, I could probably build a runway that they could land on my current property. From the onset, the Viggen was planned as an integrated weapon system to be operated in conjunction with the newest reversion of Sweden's National Electronic Air Defense System, STRIL-60. It was used as the nation's standard platform, capable of being efficiently adapted to platform all tactical mission roles. Other requirements included supersonic ability at low level, Mach 2 performance at altitude, and the ability to make short landings at low angles of attack to avoid damaging improvised runways. The aircraft was also designed from the beginning to be easy to repair and service, even for personnel without much training. Yep. And not even that much personnel. It's like 4 or 5 people could really just repair the shit out of this aircraft, refuel, and rearm it. Not only that, like, the turnaround on these aircraft, when they land to swap, like, they don't land, and then the aircraft rests while the pilot goes off and does fuck all while he's sleeping or doing whatever. Like, no, that dude fucking leaves, another pilot gets in the plane, and while he's sitting in the cockpit, the plane's being refueled and rearmed. Like, they just turn these motherfuckers right around and send them right back up into the sky. Crazy shit. One radical requirement of the proposed aircraft was the ability to be operated from relatively short runways, only 500 meters long. This was part of the BAS-60 airbase system that had been introduced by the Swedish Air Force in the late 50s. BAS-60 revolved around forced dispersal of aircraft across many wartime air bases, including road runways acting as backup runways. Utilizing partially destroyed runways was another factor that still motivated short takeoff and landing capability. BAS-60 was developed into BAS-90 in the 70s and 80s, and included short runways only 800 meters in length. Enabling such operations imposed several critical demands upon the designs, including a modest landing speed, no flared touchdown, powerful post-landing deceleration, accurate steering even in crosswinds on icy surfaces, and high acceleration on takeoff. Yeah, the landing gear is another thing that they spent a good considerable amount of time working on. Had to take a gnarly impact. In the 1960s, the U.S. National Security Council, led by President Eisenhower, formulated a security guarantee for Sweden, promising U.S. military help in the event that a Soviet attack against Sweden. Yep, that's where that comes from. Sweden's always been, sleeping with one eye open when it comes to Russia. Ha ha! In what was known as the 37 Annex, Sweden was allowed to access advanced U.S. aeronautical technology that made it possible to design and produce the Viggen much faster and more cheaply than would otherwise have been possible. According to research by Niels Bruzelius at the Swedish National Defense College, the reason for this officially unexplained U.S. support was to protect U.S. Polaris, submarines deployed just outside the Swedish East Coast against the threat of Soviet anti-submarine aircraft. However, Bruzelius' theory has been discredited by Simon Moores and Jerker Wyden. The connection also appears doubtful due to the timescale. The Viggen strike version only became operational in 71 and the fighter version in 78, by which time Polaris had already been retired. In December 1961, the Swedish government gave its approval for the development of Aircraft System 37, which would ultimately become the Viggen. By 1962, all elements for the project either existed or were closely to fully developed. These included the aircraft itself, the power plant, ejector seat, armaments, reconnaissance systems, ground servicing equipment, and training equipment such as simulators. In February 1962, the approval of the overall configuration was given and was followed by a development contract in October 1962. According to Aviation authors Bill Gunston and Peter Gilchrist, the project was by far the largest industrial development task ever attempted in Sweden. During the 1960s, the Viggen accounted for 10% of all Swedish R&D funding. Holy shit. In 1963, Saab finalized aerodynamic design of the aircraft. The aerodynamic configuration was radical. It combined an aft-mounted double delta wing with the small high-set canard foreplane equipped with powered trailing flaps mounted ahead of and slightly above the main wing. This would be judged to be the best means to satisfy the conflicting demands for short takeoff and landing performance. Supersonic speed, low turbulence sensitivity at low-level flight, and efficient lift for subsonic flight. Canard aircraft have since become common in fighter aircraft, notably with the Eurofighter Typhoon, disgusting, the Dassault Rafale, even worse, Saab JAS-39 Gripen, slightly better but still borderline prolapsed booty end of that thing. No, it's pretty bad. It's pretty fucking bad. And the III Kfir, but principally for the purposes of providing agility during flight rather than for its short takeoff and landing capabilities. Further aerodynamic refinements during the later stage of development included the addition of dog-tooth patterns upon the main wing to generate vortices, allowing for the elimination of blown flaps from the canard. The use of a thrust reverser enabled the sought short landing performance. I do believe it was and may only have been the only single-engine fighter aircraft with a thrust reverser. And that thing, reversed 60% of the thrust. It was high performance. Not a fucking low performance thrust reverser. That shit actually worked pretty good. It's almost like turning the engine the fuck around. During development, Saab had opted to power the type using a single large turbofan engine. Originally, the British Rolls-Royce Medway engine had been selected to power the Viggen, which was then considered to be ideal for the basis for a supersonic engine equipped with a fully modulated afterburner. However, development of the Medway engine was cancelled due to the intended launch aircraft, the de Havilland Trident, being downsized during development. In place of the Medway, Saab chose to adopt a licensed production version of the American Pratt & Whitney JT8D engine, the Volvo RM8, instead. The RM8 was heavily redesigned, using new materials to accommodate flight at Mach 2 speeds, a Swedish-built afterburner, and a fully variable nozzle. Nailed it. During 1964, the construction of the first prototype aircraft commenced. On the 8th of February 1967, the first of an eventual 7 prototypes conducted its maiden flight, which had occurred as per established development schedule. This first flight, which lasted for 43 minutes, was flown by Eric Dahlstrom, Saab's chief test pilot, who reported the prototype to have been easy to handle throughout. Writing at the time, aerospace publication Flight International describing the flight as having been Sweden's astonishing unilateral stand in the front rank of advanced aircraft building nations. Each of the 7 prototypes were assigned different roles. Although the initial aircraft were focused on supporting the development of the initial production variant, the AJ-37. In 1967, the Swedish government concluded that in development AJ-37 Viggen would both be cheaper than this and superior to the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. And they were much, much better than the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Better looking, too. In April 1968, the Swedish government formally issued authorization for manufacturing of the Viggen to proceed, issuing an order for 175 Viggens that year. Also, in 1968, Saab began work on the Viggen's maritime reconnaissance and photo reconnaissance variants. In May 1969, the Viggen made its first public appearance outside of Sweden at the Paris Air Show. On the 23rd of February, 1971, the first production aircraft, an AJ-37 model, conducted its first flight. In July 1971, the first production aircraft was delivered to the Swedish Air Force. As the initial AJ-37 Viggen was being introduced to service, further variants of the Viggen proceeded to complete development and enter production. In 1972, the first SK-37, an operational trainer variant with the staggered second canopy for an instructor, was delivered to the Swedish Air Force. On the 21st of May, 1973, the first prototype of the SF-37 Viggen, a tactical reconnaissance variant featuring a modified nose to accommodate 7 sensors, conducted its first flight. While other variants entered production during the 1960s, Saab continued the development of more capable all-weather intercepted version of the aircraft, the JA-37. In 1970, Sweden's air defenses had been closely inspected, and it was determined that the prospective JA-37 Viggen was highly suited to the role. In 1972, the Swedish government authorized the development of the fighter interceptor variant to proceed, which was followed by several major contracts for the JA-37's further development. A total of 5 prototypes would be produced, 4 of which being the modified AJ-37s, and 1 being a sole pre-production JA-37 model to test the control systems, engine, avionics, and armaments, respectively. In June 1974, the first of these prototypes conducted its maiden flight. Later that year, an initial order for 30 JA-37s was issued by the Swedish government. The JA-37 Viggen featured various changes from its predecessor, including revisions to the design of the airframe, the use of more powerful RM-8B power plant, a new generation of electronics being adopted, and a revised armament configuration employed. The principal, externally visible changes from the earlier variant were a taller tail fin and the under-fuselage gun pack armament. The JA-37, in addition to its principal aerial combat mission, also retained a secondary ground attack capability and was better suited to low-level operations. In November 1977, the first production JA-37 Viggen was conducted its maiden flight. Operational trials for the new variant were conducted between January and December 1979, which resulted in the type being introduced to operational service that year. According to Flight International, at the time of the JA-37's introduction, it was the most advanced European fighter in service. Arguably still would be if they kept it in service, instead of going for the Gripen, which is basically the same plane, but still. It looks worse, okay? I like the Viggen better than the Gripen. They just made it smaller instead of changing the look. In April 1964, the Swedish government revealed its budget proposal for the Swedish Air Force, in which it had been envisioned that 800 or more Viggens would be produced, which was in turn intended to allow all other combat aircraft then in service with the Swedish Air Force to be replaced with this single type. Yeah, they were trying to wipe out their entire Air Force and just have the Viggen. That's a terrible idea, first off. Terrible idea. Holy shit. I'm telling you, multi-role fighter, not the way to go. For, money purposes, longevity, it's better to have something that's a complete and total master of one thing than a subpar expert of many things. Right? Like when going over the A-10, for instance, when we did that last Aviation Prattle episode, I pointed out that the F-35, for all its fucking worth and all its greatness and as cool as it is fucking expensive. Holy shit. You could build and maintain 20 A-10s for what one F-35 is worth. And the A-10 is still a better close air support airplane than the F-35 is. It was built for the role specific. Yeah, I'm telling you. However, a single combination of inflation and other factors eventually reduced the total number of aircraft manufactured to 329. By 1980, up to 149 J-37 Viggens were produced or projected to be built, and the line was to be closed within the decade as the Swedish aerospace industry changed to focus to the impending Saab JAS-39 Gripen, the Viggen's eventual replacement. Over time, advances in computing, such as a microprocessor, had enabled greater flexibility than the physical configuration of the Viggen, so further development of the Viggen platform was not viewed as cost-effective. In 1990, production of the Viggen ceased and the final aircraft was delivered. In May 1991, an SEK $300 million program to upgrade 11 AJ-37, SF-37, and SH-37 Viggens to a common multi-role variant designated AJS-37 was announced. Amongst the changes involved, interchangeable armaments and sensor payloads were implemented in addition to the adoption of new mission planning and threat analysis computer systems. The onboard ECM systems were also improved. Specifically, the implementation of new stores management system and the MIL STD 1553 serial data bus, similar to that used on the newer JAS-39 Gripen, allowed for the integration of the AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missiles. An upgraded Ericsson PS-46A radar was installed, and a new tactical radio. On the 4th of June 1996, the first upgraded prototype JA-37 Viggen performed its first flight. In 1996, according to the Swedish Air Force, Material Development Chief General Stefan Nastrom, various upgrades performed to the Viggen since its introduced had doubled the effectiveness of the overall system. The Viggen was powered by a single Volvo RM8 turbofan. This was essentially a heavily modified license-built variant of the Pratt & Whitney JT8D engine that powered commercial airliners of the 1960s, with an afterburner added for the Viggen. The airframe was also incorporated a thrust reverser to use during landings and land maneuvers, which, combined with the aircraft having flight capabilities approaching a limited short takeoff and landing-like performance, enabled operations from 500-meter airstrips with minimal support. The thrust reverser could be pre-selected in the air to engage when the nozzle wheel strut was compressed after touchdown via a pneumatic trigger. Epic. The requirements from the Swedish Air Force dictated Mach 2 capability at high altitude, Mach 1 at low altitude. At the same time, short field takeoff and landing performance was also required. Since the Viggen was developed initially as an attack aircraft instead of an interceptor, some emphasis was given to low fuel consumption at high subsonic speeds at low level for good range. With turbofan engines just emerging and indicating better fuel economy for cruise than turbojet engines, the former was favored since the latter were merely limiting by metallurgy development resulting from limitations in turbine temperature. Mechanical simplicity was also favored, so the air intakes were simple D-section types with boundary layer splitter plates, while the fixed inlet had no adjustable geometry for improved pressure recovery. The disadvantage was that the required engine would be very large. In fact, at the time of introduction, it was the second largest fighter engine with a length of 6.1 meters and 1.35 meter diameter. The only Tumensky R-15, only the Tumensky R-15 was bigger. Saab had originally wanted the Rolls-Royce Medway as the Viggen's power plant. Owing to the cancellation of the Medway, the JT8D was instead chosen as the basis for modification. The RM8 became the second operational afterburning turbofan in the world, and also the first equipped with the thrust reverser. According to aviation author Christopher Chent, the RM8 has the distinction of being the first engine to be fitted with both an afterburner and a thrust reverser. It had a bypass ratio of around 1.07 to 1 in the RM8A, which reduced to 0.97 to 1 in the RM8B. The RM-8A was the most powerful fighter engine in the late 60s. The AJ, SF, SH, and SK-37 models of the Viggen had the first version of the RM-8A engine with uprated internal components from the JT-8D that it was based on. Thrust was 65.6. Man, hold on. Give me 1 second. Sorry. For the JA-37, RM-8A was developed into the RM-8B, achieved by adding a third low-pressure compressor stage over the preceding model, increasing the turbine inlet temperature and fuel diffusion with the combustion chamber. Owing to the increased length and weight of the RM-8B engine over its predecessor, the airframe of the JA-37 was stretched in order to accommodate it. Onboard electrical power was provided by a 60 kVA generator. In the event of an in-flight engine failure, emergency power was given by an automatically developing ram air turbine. Nice. Whoa. In the early 1960s, it was decided that the Viggen should be a single-seat aircraft, Saab having recognized that the advanced avionics such as digital central computer and heads-up display could perform the workload of a human navigator and entirely replace the need for a second crew member. A use of digital computer would reduce or entirely replace analog systems, which had proven to be expensive to maintain and alter, as had been the case of the earlier Draken, in addition to accuracy issues. The computer, called the CK-37, was the world's first airborne computer to use integrated circuits. Developed by the Data Saab, the CK-37 was the integrating unit for all electronic equipment to support the pilot performing functions such as navigation, flight control, and weapon aiming calculations. In practice, the CK-37 proved to be more reliable than predicted. On later variants of the Viggen, from the JA-37 onwards, it was decided to adopt a newer, more powerful Singer-Kierfot SKC 2037 digital central processor, licensed, manufactured, and further developed by Saab as the CD-107. Computing techniques and concepts, such as distributed computing, went beyond the use of the Viggen, in addition to civil-oriented derivatives. It directly contributed to the computers used on board the Viggen's replacement, the Saab JAS-39 Gripen. Various electronic countermeasures were installed upon the Viggen. These were typically provided by SAT Electronic. The ECM systems consisted of a SAT electronic radar warning receiver system in the wings and tail, an operational Ericsson Aerojammer pod, and BOZ-100 chaff flare pod. Infrared warning receivers were also later installed. In total, the electronics weighed 600 kilograms, a substantial amount for a single-engine fighter of the era. The aircraft's principal sensor was an Ericsson PAS-37 X-band monopulse radar. That's a fucking mouthful. Which used a mechanically steered parabolic reflector housed in a radome. This radar performed several functions, including air-to-ground and air-to-air telemetry, search, track, terrain avoidance, and cartography. On the J-37 fighter interceptor model, the PS-37 radar was replaced by a more capable Ericsson PS-46 X-band pulse Doppler radar, which had an all-weather look-down, shoot-down capability reportedly in excess of 50 kilometers and continuous wave illumination for the Skyflash missiles, as well as the ability to track 2 targets while scanning. Holy shit. Yeah. The Viggen was the only aircraft ever to get a confirmed lock onto the SR-71 Blackbird. The only confirmed radar lock on the SR-71 was from the Viggen. Fucking epic. Epic. According to Ericsson, it had a 50% chance of spotting a low-flying McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II with a single scan, and possessed a high level of resistance to interference from ECM. Yeah, fucking epic shit, dude. Holy crap. Saab and Honeywell co-developed an automatic digital flight control system for the JA-37 Viggen, which has been claimed to be the first such system in a production aircraft. To assist low-altitude flight, a Honeywell radar altimeter with transmitter and receiver in the canard wings was used. The aircraft was also fitted with a Decca Type 72 Doppler navigation radar, TILS, Tactical Instrument Landing System, a landing aid system made by Cutler Hammer AIL, improved landing accuracy to 30 meters from the threshold on a short highway airbase system. In order to effectively enforce Sweden's airspace, the Viggen was integrated with the STRIL-60 National Defense System. The J-37 Viggen was also equipped with the Garrett AI Research Digital Central Air Data Computer, modified from the unit used upon the Grumman F-14 Tomcat. Holy shit, the level of, in the aerospace industry, they really like to just throw a shit ton of words in there to name something. That's why you have a lot of, acronyms. It's because most of this shit is just too long to say in a fucking sentence. Holy shit. Damn. Initially, only a single reconnaissance S variant was considered, but fitting cameras as well as a radar proved to be impossible. SH-37 Maritime Strike and Reconnaissance variant was similar to the AJ-37 and differed mainly in a maritime-optimized PS-371A radar with longer range, a cockpit air data camera, and tape recorder for the mission analysis. Red Baron, quote-unquote, and SKA-24D 600mm LOROP camera pods were usually carried on the fuselage pylons. The centerline fuel tank was converted for a short period of time to a camera pod with 2 Recon Optical CA200 16-76mm cameras. In addition to the reconnaissance equipment, the SH-37 could also use all weapons for the AJ-37. For the photographic SF version, the radar in the nose was omitted in favor of 4 SKA-24C 120mm and 2 SKA-31C 570mm photographic cameras, as well as 1 57mm VKA-702 infrared line scan camera and air data camera, all of which were integrated with and controlled by the aircraft's central computer. Additional equipment, such as more camera pods, fuel tanks, ECM pods, and self-defense air-to-air missiles, could also be carried upon the fuselage pylons. Holy shit. The fighter-interceptor version of the Viggen, the JA-37, featured various avionic changes, including the extensive use of digital electronics alongside mechanical technology. In 1985, the Fighter Inc. went into service. permitting encrypted data communication between 4 fighters. This enabled one fighter to paint an airborne enemy with guidance radar for the Skyflash missiles of the 3 other fighters in a group while they had their search and guidance radar switched off. This system was operational 10 years before any other countries. The autopilot was also slave to the radar control to obtain better precision firing the cannon. Once in service, the Viggen software was regularly updated every 18 months. In 1983, the mean time between failures was reported as 100 hours, a very high reliability level for generation of avionics systems involved. The displays in the original cockpit were all of the traditional analog mechanical type with the exception of the electronic heads-up display, which Saab has claimed makes the Viggen easier to fly, especially at low altitudes during air-to-ground strike missions. Unusually for a 1970s fighter, the J-37 variant of the Viggen featured 3 multi-purpose cathode ray tube display screens were fitted within the cockpit in a system called AP-12, developed by Saab and Ericsson. These displays would be used to display processed radar information, computer-generated maps, flight and weapons data, along with steering cues during precision landings. Between 1989 and 1992, the AP-12 display system was subject to a substantial upgrade. In 1999, a new tactical liquid crystal display (LCD) system derived from the Saab JAS-39 Gripen, which replaced the CRT-based AP-12 system, began flight tests with the Swedish Air Force. On the twin-seat SK-37 trainer, the rear cockpit used by the instructors only fitted with conventional instrumentation and lacks a HUD, computer controls, and other features. The ejection seat was the Racket Stoll 37 and was the last Saab-designed seat in service. A derivative of Saab 105 trainer seat, the seat was optimized for low-altitude, high-speed ejections. Once activated by the pilot, via triggers built into the armrests. Nice. Triggers built into the armrests. Just chillin'. Accidentally hit one of the triggers. Go fucking bye-bye. The ejection sequence is automated, including the removal of the canopy. In the event of a malfunction, a reserve trigger can be activated. Combined parachute and seat harness is used, which features a barometric interlock to appropriately release the occupant and harness from the seat during the ejection sequence. A manual override handle is also provided for this function. There were dedicated warning caption panels on each side of the pilot's legs. One on the right side, a right console panel where numerous dedicated controls and indicators, including weapons and missile controls, nav panel, oxygen on-off, windshield defogging, IFF controls, lighting controls. Situated on the left panel were radar controls, canopy handle, landing gear handle, radio controls, and the cabin pressure indicator. As per then standard practice within Swedish Air Force, all cockpit instrumentation and labeling were in Swedish. Well, of course it was. It's a fucking Swedish plane. With the performance requirements to a large extent dictating the choice of engine, the airframe turned out to be quite bulky compared to contemporary slimmer designs with turbojet engines. First prototypes had a straight midsection fuselage that was later improved with a hump on the dorsal spine for reduced drag according to the area rule. The wing had the shape of a double delta with a dog tooth added to improve longitudinal stability at high incidence angles. The consequence of a tailless delta design, such as the Viggen, is that the elevons, which replace more conventional control surfaces, operate with a small effective moment arm. Use there adds substantial weight to the aircraft at takeoff and landing. Hinged leading edge surfaces can help counteract this. But an even more effective tool is the canard. The canard surface were positioned behind the inlets and placed slightly higher than the main wing, with a higher stall angle than the wing, and were equipped with flaps. The lifting canards surfaces act as a vortex generator for the main wing and therefore provide more lift. An added benefit was that they also improved roll stability in transonic region. The canard flaps were deployed in conjunction with the landing gear to provide even more lift for takeoff and landing. Yep. To withstand the stress of no-flare landing, Saab made extensive use of aluminum in the airframe of the Viggen, which was constructed using bonded metal honeycomb structure. The entire rear section of the fuselage, downstream of the engine nozzle, formed a heat-resistant ring composed of titanium. The main landing gear, manufactured by Motala Verkstad, was highly strengthened as well. Each leg held two small wheels fitted with an anti-skid brakes placed in a tandem arrangement. The design requirements imposed by the large anti-ship missiles employed upon the Viggen necessitated that both the undercarriage and vertical stabilizer be quite tall. To accommodate this, and to allow the main landing gear to be stowed outside of the wing root, the undercarriage leg shortened during retraction. The vertical stabilizer could also be folded via an actuator in order that the aircraft could be stored in smaller hangars, hardened aircraft shelters, and underground hangars, the latter of which were employed by the Swedish military to limit the damage of preemptive attacks. Yeah, underground hangars. Let's go. Let's go for the underground bunker hangar. That's epic. Holy shit. The 6 tanks in the fuselage and wings held approximately 5,000 liters of fuel with an additional 1,500 liters in an external drop tank. This specific fuel consumption was only 0.63 for cruise speeds. Nice. The Viggen's consumption was around 15 kilograms a second at maximum afterburner. A pair of inlets placed alongside the cockpit feed air to the engine. Simple fixed geometry inlets were adopted, similar to the Draken, except for being larger and standing clear of the fuselage. And now we get to the good stuff. The good stuff. I'm just kidding, it's all good stuff. But this stuff. Good old armament. A weapon's load of up to 7,000 kilograms can be accommodated on 9 hardpoints. 1 centerline pylon, 2 fuselage pylons, 2 inner and 2 outer wing pylons, and 2 pylons behind the wing landing gear. The centerline pylon was the only pylon plumbed for carrying an external fuel tank, and was usually so occupied with said fuel tank. A pair of air-to-air missiles were intended to be placed on the outboard wing pylons, which were more lightweight than the other attachment points. The pylons behind the landing gear were not used until the JA-37D modification, when BOL countermeasures dispensers were fitted to them. Ground crew would enter the munitions fitted into the aircraft's central computer using a load selector panel, which would automatically choose the correct values for fire control, fuel consumption, and other calculations. The AJ-37 was typically equipped with a total of 7 hard points. 3 underneath the fuselage, 2 underneath each wing. A further 2 mounted hardpoints could be optionally fitted, but this facility was rarely used. Various munitions could then be carried such as several types of rockets, the 135mm M56 GP 4 kilogram armor piercing. Fuck yeah. The M56B with 9.6 kilograms of high explosives. And the M70 with a 4.7 kilogram heat warhead. The warhead. AJ-37 was designed to carry two RB-04E anti-ship missiles on the inboard wing pylons with an optional third missile on the centerline pylon. The RB-04 was a relatively simple cruise missile that was further developed to become a more capable RBS-15, also integrated on the Viggen. An optional load consisted of two RB-05 air-to-surface missiles on the fuselage pylons. The RB-05 was later replaced by the AGM-65 Maverick television-guided missile. In ground attack role, a combination of unguided 135mm rockets in sextuple pods and 120-kilogram fragmentation bombs on quadruple mounts could be used. Other armaments include explosive mines for destroying runways or other reasons. Swedish pilots. If you know, you know. And 30mm add-in cannon pods with 150 rounds of ammunition on the inboard wing pylons. Self-defense measures included various ECM systems, as well as either the AIM-4 Falcon or AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles. At one point, the AJ-37 Viggen was under consideration as a carrier of both Swedish nuclear weapon and chemical weapons, although no nuclear or chemical weapons were ultimately adopted by Sweden. Yep. Sweden said, fuck all that noise. The J-37 fighter interceptor, introduced in 1979, featured the Ericsson PS-46A radar, which was capable of guiding the medium-range semi-active radar homing RB-71 Skyflash air-to-air missiles. See what I'm talking about? The fucking mouthful. Really military-industrial complex. All over the world, doesn't matter what country you're in. Their fucking military is crazy with the fucking long-winded names for shit, man. Both the RB-71 and the PS-46A radar were designed to provide the Viggen with a look-down, shoot-down capability to engage targets at beyond visual range distances. The J-37 could carry up to two RB-71s on the inner wing pylons in typical air defense loadout. These would typically have been combined with four RB-24J air-to-air missiles, a more capable and newer version of the Sidewinder missile than employed on earlier Viggen variants. Following the evaluation of several alternative cannons, including the British ADEN cannon, the American M61 Vulcan, and the French DEFA cannon, an Oerlikon KCA 30mm cannon was selected for the J-37. The KCA was carried along with 126 rounds of ammunition. That's it. And a conformal pod under the fuselage. 126 rounds of ammunition. That's it? No. That can't be right. There's no way. That cannot be correct. The firing rate of the cannon was selectable at 22 or 11 rounds per second. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, fuck, 5 to 10 seconds and you're out of ammo. There's no way it's only 126 rounds of ammunition. What the fuck? I fired the same cartridge as the GAU-8, reportedly 50% heavier shells at higher velocity than the ADEN cannon. Yeah, has the same gun as the A-10. This is why I'm tripping. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, not the same gun, but it's like equivalent, right? Holy shit. Not obviously doesn't fire anywhere near as fast, but same type of ammunition, right? Reportedly 50% heavier shells at higher velocity than the ADEN cannon, resulting in 6.5 times the kinetic energy on impact, and was effective up to 2,000 meters. This, in conjunction with the fire control system, allowed air-to-air engagements at longer range than other fighters. Perhaps the most important improvement was the expanded STRIL data link, which entered service in 1982 to 85. It allowed not only ground control aircraft communication, but also between up to 4 aircraft simultaneously, regardless if airborne or on the ground. Data link information was displayed on a horizontal situation display and a tactical display, the latter using link symbology that could be overlaid with an electronic map on a multifunction display. Oh shit, you caught alive. What's up, dude? How's it going, Caldy? You did catch alive. You caught alive indeed. Interestingly enough, right at the end of it. That's hilarious. It's okay, I'm going live again in like fucking 20 minutes. And then I'll be live until 5 in the morning, Central Standard Time. So, yeah, I'll be live for a minute, Caldy. I just had to come and do an aviation prattle real quick. And then I'm gonna fucking hang out and just be gaming. Because, fuck, I ain't got nothing better to do when it's fucking freezing ass cold outside. Holy I hate the cold so much. I can't wait to move back to the desert. Even though it's freezing ass cold in the desert, it's a different kind of cold. Shit, man, when it's humid and cold at the same time, it's the fucking worst. Just like when it's humid and hot. Humid and cold is weird. It's a fucking weird feeling. When it's dry and cold, at least you, like... I don't know how to explain it. It's fucking weird, though. It's just weird. It's different. Word. Well, I dropped a like. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Fuck yeah, thanks, Caldy. You're a legend. You're a legend. Just throwing this out there, there won't be a stream, what is technically tonight, Friday night, Saturday into Saturday morning, obviously, beyond verbal combat. If that's even happening, I don't know if Speak is going to be going live. I know he's got something going on. So, wish him the best. Hopefully everything works out. I don't know what he's dealing with, but... it's none of my damn business in the first place. I just wish the guy the best. That's all. That's all I gotta say on that. Hopefully verbal combat's happening. If it's not, in the event that it doesn't, then I will go live. I just won't have any content other than gaming because I don't have anything planned for the night. So, in the event that verbal combat doesn't happen, I will go live. If it does happen, I will not go live tonight. However, I will be live again in 20 minutes. We'll be live again in 20 minutes. As for me now, though, my time with you has come to an end. Next Aviation Prattle, I should have an add-on to the intro video. Make it a little bit longer, add another song to it. Feel like it's time for an upgrade on the old Aviation Prattle. You know what I mean? But, that being said, I hope all of you that don't return in 20 minutes to hang out and just shoot the shit while I'm gaming. Hope all of you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. It doesn't matter wherever you're at in the world. Enjoy your time, because it may be limited. Never know. Could wake up one day, look outside, and oh shit, it's motherfucking red dawn. It's time. The Russians are invading. Yeah, right, they couldn't fucking do that, dude. Oh my god, that'd be the worst. Like, the United States, the only way you're gonna infiltrate the United States is actually, ironically, what's happening at the border. So, with that being said, everybody have a great night. I will catch y'all later. Ah, shit.